The first lie is the lie of false approval. So can you describe false approval, what this lie is, and how it might play out in our life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all fall victim to believing that, again, back to the garden, we know what's best, and that's, why the first commandment, it's like, have no other gods before me. And what we tend to do is create our own autonomy. We want to believe that we know what's best for ourselves. We want to believe that we are actually a good Lord, but we're actually a terrible Lord
Yeah,
over our own
for
lives.
sure.
And what we search for, and what I would say that is a primary idol in most people's life, is approval. And why that's the way the book started for me is because for me, I grew up without a father, and having that gap in my life, it caused me to see myself as inadequate.
Mm,
And I had this gap in my life, and I tried to fill something that only God could fill. And the way that I tried to fill it was with approval. And the world tells us that, from a secular point of view, if you have enough followers, if you have a blue check mark,
yep.
if enough people know your name, if you drive the right car, if the paparazzi, are
Yeah.
chasing you around, then your life must be more important. So we seek after these counterfeit, approvals. We chase after these things that we feel like are going to make us feel good, and that's actually what we're doing. We're creating idols
Yep.
out of our feelings. We're creating idols out of this
Mm,
false sense of approval.
yep.
And man, guess what? We've already been approved by God through Jesus on the cross. If you are a follower of Jesus Christ, guess what? Jesus, what he accomplished on the
Mm,
cross, that's the most important thing about you. And you
right.
stand approved before God because of what Jesus has done.
Mm,
So the approval that you feel like you need, you actually already have. But if you lie to yourself and
yep.
say, well, I need, the approval of others, guess
Yep.
what? I'm going to end up in this cyclical,
Mm,
I'm unsatisfied. I have that dopamine hit.
totally.
I need more,
Yep.
and that's really the first chapter.
Yeah, and we see that play out too when it comes to specifically pornography addiction because, for you not growing up with a dad, you didn't have that approval around, right? What we were designed to experience from our parents or from our caregivers. And so that lie seeps in through that negative experience and then you seek out, and this was my story, this is the story of so many people. Pornography is a really good band-aid, man. It's something that always is approving and always accepting you. And so that lie definitely plays out for sure. And when we can address it, identify it, man, that's when things really start to change. When you see, and it really, I can remember the first time I was in group and sharing my darkest secrets and seeing the approval I experienced from those other men where they said, "Hey, man, me too." And they said, we know this deep, dark secret now, but we still love you and we approve of you and you're still our brother. That to me was experiencing the vertical love of Jesus on a horizontal plane. And so that's huge. And so I know that our listeners will absolutely resonate with chapter 1 for sure.
Yeah, and I love how you said that because the Bible tells us that that forgiveness is that that vertical. If we confess our sins, that that God will forgive us. But then James 5:16 talks about
Yep.
how it is through confession to
Yes.
one another
Yes.
and through the prayer of a righteous man, like we're healed.
Mm-hmm.
And as that's where that healing has to happen.
Yep.
And I would say, man, the other lie that kind of is nuanced with the pornography, is, well, guess what? You'll never be rejected.
Yeah.
And it's like
Nice.
that. So for someone that has felt rejected, so for me, not
Mm,
only was there an absentee father, there was a father that was in close enough proximity that I saw him because I grew up in a small town, and he was around. He wasn't in my life, but he was in close enough proximity to know. I knew what he was doing. I knew
yeah.
I know different like nuances of his life. So I experienced absence
Mm,
and rejection simultaneously.
yeah.
And that's another lie, that pornography, it's like, well, I won't be rejected. But
Yeah.
you're believing that you're not going to be rejected from something that's actually fictitious,
Mm,
and that's something I talk about in the intimacy chapter. But yeah, I mean, it's all a
yeah,
lie,
yeah,
and that's why it's so addictive.
yeah,
Because you believe it's something it's not.
right.
But again, if you believe a lie to be true,
Yeah,
it's true to you.
yeah, man.